Abroad Pod.
Hello, listener, and thank you so much for joining me on the 41st edition of the Teaching Abroad Pod. Welcome to the first episode of 2023, and happy belated New Year. I'm your host, Rowan, and joining me today will be another great three-peat guest, Patricia Persaud, to tell us about her experience finding a job and teaching at a university in Mexico. I hope you all had a great holiday. I know I did. I had the pleasure of spending the week of Christmas at beautiful Playa Blanca in Punta Leona on Costa Rica's Pacific coast. My sister-in-law and niece actually flew in from Toronto, and we did a lot of lounging around at the pool, at the beach. The tide pools were really cool as well. We saw some marine wildlife we had not seen before. There was this little prehistoric-looking chitin mollusk. I think it was called the blue-green chitin, which, makes you feel like you're in the Jurassic era. We also saw some really cool sea slugs or sea hares, or whatever they're called, many minnows, hermit crabs. So lots of cool little things. The tide pools are always very memorable for my son and definitely something to try and do if traveling with kids. What else? The sunsets were gorgeous. The food was pretty good. Lots of things you could just do if you're looking for something to do at Punta Leona. There's volleyball courts in the sand, kayaks and paddle boards to rent. We played a lot of ping pong and foosball. It's all included with the price of admission. A butterfly garden as well. And there was, they had erected some man-made nests for the macaws. So there was quite a large flock of noisy scarlet macaws nesting nearby. And those are a sight to behold. I kid you not, when in flight. They're so brightly colored, and their large wingspans and tails. Something to look for whenever you're on the coast. The hotel also offers a lot of activities we didn't participate in, like very early morning birding hikes, as well as bingo, karaoke, dance lessons. I did sort of in the background try and get some salsa moves in, but the big thing we did do was go ziplining. Finally, ziplining seems to be on every visitor to Costa Rica's bucket list, and I finally got out and did that with my family. My niece was even brave enough to try the upside down, like Spider-Man pose on one of the lines, so kudos to her. But you know what, strangely, in my mind, maybe the best thing there was the price of a car repair. We got a flat tire from a nail stuck in the tire, and the lovely folks at the golf cart rentals fixed it for $10. To me, that's such a deal. The stick-out memory of my trip to Playa Blanca. Anyways, enough about me. As mentioned off the top, there's an upcoming interview with Patricia we're going to get to shortly, but first, a word from our sponsor.
With Oxford Seminars, starting your new career teaching ESL couldn't be easier. Oxford Seminars has trained more than 70,000 teachers over the past 30 years, and you could be next. Our comprehensive 120-hour program starts with live instruction from an experienced ESL teacher, followed by convenient online modules. If your goal is to relocate overseas or even teach from the comfort of your own home, Oxford Seminars' renowned lifetime job placement service will get you where you want to be. Right now, you can get $50 off your Oxford Seminars TESOL TESOL TEFL course price when paying in full by calling 1-888-225-2480 and giving the code TEACHINGABROADPOD. Visit oxfordseminars.com today to find out more.
I'm very happy to once again welcome back Oxford Seminars graduate Patricia Persaud to the podcast. As a reminder, Patricia has earned a social services diploma and an honors Bachelor of Applied Science degree. She worked for a number of years in the social services field before moving to South Korea in 2018, where she worked as a public school English teacher. She then took up a new teaching position in Playa del Carmen, Mexico in late 2021, and last fall began work as a university instructor at UMAR, the University of the Sea, located on Mexico's South Pacific coast. We're excited to hear all about it. Welcome back to the podcast, Patricia.
Thanks for having me. Kind of feel like I'm a veteran now.
Yeah, you are tied for the most guest appearances now with a couple of other graduates.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you've just arrived back in Mexico after being in Canada for the holidays. A bit of a difference in the weather?
Totally. I really miss the weather in Mexico. You don't realize how much you miss the sun until you're away from it. And when I was away in Canada, it was so cold, and I got caught in the snowstorm. So I'm definitely happy to be back.
Yeah, I heard it was one of the worst storms in recent memory.
Oh, for sure. But it's all
Roads
melted now, so I guess
closed,
it's okay.
airports closed, everything was going sideways.
Yeah, but luckily no problem, so I'm good.
Good. How was it being back in Canada otherwise, apart from the weather?
It was really nice. It's nice that living in Mexico now, I can actually go home for the holidays. So, when I lived in South Korea, I couldn't go home for Christmas. But the one benefit of living in Mexico is that I can always go home for Christmas because there's always vacation at Christmas. So it's been
For
really nice
sure.
catching up with family.
Yeah, that's a good reason to stay close to home when
Mhm.
possible. Did your trip go smoothly relatively? There are certainly lots of headlines about airports and airlines that strike fear into the heart of any traveler these days.
Luckily, I didn't have any problems, and there's been problems with luggage missing, and I'm so happy I didn't have that problem.
Nice, nice. Uh, Back to Mexico, is it basically post-pandemic life now where you are? Do you still need to mask when going into any specific buildings or rooms or anything like that?
It's not as strict as before, but they expect masks inside the school. I guess it's relaxed a bit over the time, so it's been that part's been okay. A little bit of normalcy.
So at the moment, you have to mask in the classroom or no?
Yes, you have to wear a mask in the classroom.
I see. But not all buildings are like that, like the grocery store or a restaurant, things like that.
No, it was when I first arrived here a few months ago, and then I think the rules have changed, and then now for the buses or inside the stores, you don't usually see it. It's optional.
Okay, good to know. And how have you liked teaching in the university environment so far?
I've liked it so far. It's actually a big difference teaching adults than, my last job was teaching children, and it's a lot less classroom management, and it's really nice to have a change of teaching adults, having some nice conversations with them. It's been really great.
Nice. What would you say? I mean, you've mentioned age, but what are the other major differences between teaching in elementary school as compared to a post-secondary setting?
I think for the post-secondary setting, it's mandatory for them to take English and they need to pass the English class in order for them to graduate. So they take it a lot more seriously. It's a lot more testing, so things are really reviewing and testing, and it's a lot more serious. But I think it's really good rather than learning English just for the sake of learning it or for conversation. They need to pass the English class in order to finish school.
So the effort level may be a little higher in some of the cases of the students.
In some cases, I know this, just as always in any case, there's still students that, need a little more of a push or a little more of a motivation. But it's been really nice.
And how did you manage to get a job at a Mexican university? I know there are a lot of people around the world who would love to get into a job at a university system.
I was given a contact, a few emails, and then they've actually given me contact for other coordinators. And going forward, I feel like that's what I would do. I was waiting for a response, so email the coordinators of the English programs, the English departments in the universities. Sometimes they'll say we have an opening, and sometimes they'll say no, we're not hiring right now, but so and so might be hiring. So, and that's how I
Oh.
actually end up getting someone's email, and then I just tried them like I was wondering if you're hiring, and they said, "Oh, actually, we are." So it works out pretty well because I'm in a really nice location.
So I know our former JPA and pod co-host Alex had taught in the Oaxaca State University system, and was he sort of somewhat influential in getting you on this path?
Oh yes, big time. He was the one that I didn't think I was ready for university teaching. Like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. And he gave me a big push and no, you have the experience. He ended up putting me in touch with some people. Like it was really great. And now I'm so happy I actually had that chance to work for the university now because if he didn't tell me about it, I wouldn't have known and I wouldn't have applied for it. So big shout out to Alex.
Nice. I'm sure he appreciates that. So you were saying once you get the first few contacts, that gets the ball rolling, they can connect you to more people who can connect you to more people, and it's kind of legwork on your end and just continuing to reach out to program coordinators and things like that.
Yes, for sure. I didn't even think of doing something like this because most of the time, I think a lot of us tend to go on some websites and then like looking for job postings. But a lot of the postings aren't even advertised. I think you sometimes you have to sort of look for them or look for a connection, and I feel like that's a good way to just, get yourself out there. Even if you don't get a response, at least you tried and see that, okay, there might be a position available somewhere.
Good advice. Thanks for that. So regarding your teaching at Umar, how many students are in your classes?
It goes from maybe 15 to 20 in each class. It's not too big, not too small, just the right amount.
Nice. And how do you prepare lessons for those classes?
A lot of the time, this is a lot more different than when I was in South Korea because I think with the younger ages, you're taught to more entertain them. While it's still fun learning, a lot of it's more of preparing for tests and exams because they usually have testing every month, so it's preparing for the exams a lot.
All right. And what have been the highlights for you of living in Mexico so far?
Well, definitely the weather and the food. And in this case, I live in Oaxaca versus, the Mayan Riviera, and it's really a difference with getting more immersed in the culture. I feel like I see a lot more of what I say, the real Mexico, being around the people. I actually live in a more of a traditional area with goats and chickens and things around me. I can actually hear the roosters right now. So I feel like I've gotten more of an authentic feel in Mexico this time around, and I've really appreciated that.
Nice. So Playa del Carmen was a bit more touristy, and where you are now is
Mhm.
more authentic Mexican life.
Yes, for sure.
What's the name of the city your campus is in?
It's in Puerto Escondido, which translates to hidden port. And they didn't ha they had some tourists before, but I think now it's not so much of a secret. It's not so much hidden because now I'm actually seeing some tourists little by little. Like a lot of them are starting to come. They're figuring out like, oh, it's Mexico's secret, but it's not such a secret anymore. It's getting starting to get popular. They have really nice beaches here, and it's known for surfing. So a lot of people are coming for surfing here.
Oh, nice. It sounds kind of like where I've been going in Costa Rica on the Pacific coast. Very big waves, big surf, popular with that
Hmm.
crowd for sure. How's the swimming?
A
Is
very
it
nice
safe for swimming,
atmosphere.
or is it better to stay on the sand?
They a lot of people give some recommendations for the different beaches. So they said there's some beaches that the waves are really high, so then don't go to that beach. But if you want something that has calm water, go to that beach. You can actually afford to be picky about going to the beaches, so which is really nice.
Not a shortage of sandy spots to choose from, I guess.
No, not at all.
And what specific sightseeing trips have you done or do you have planned for the coming months?
Oh, they have a lot of things out here that I actually want to see. So, they have a bioluminescence tour where you can actually go at night. The water looks like it's glowing, so you can do a tour of
Oh,
that. There's one that I want to do. They have a lot of baby turtles, and there's a lot of environmental groups here, and they release baby turtles into the sea, so you can go and do that tour. They have whale watching right now, so I'm hoping I can do that. You go out on a boat and then they take you into some areas, sometimes see dolphins, but I think there's a certain time period where you can actually see whales. So that sounds really good. And then
nice.
they do have some festivals and it's a lot more nature. And I think it's such a good thing to I think it's a good thing to experience here. So things that maybe I don't always do, it's good to give it a try here.
Absolutely. But how did you call it? Bioluminescence?
Yes, bioluminescence.
I'm really curious how that would work, what kinds of things you can see under the lights.
I've seen the pictures of it. It looks like it's glowing. The water's glowing, and I think you have to get it at a certain night where it's very dark outside, and then the water's just glowing. Then you put your hand in it, and then you can see the movement glowing.
Cool. I'll have to check that out. My parents are in Mexico, actually. Every winter they go to Mexico. So maybe one of these years I'll make it down there.
Oh yeah, you definitely have to come.
What's next for you career-wise, do you think? Are you planning to stay there for a few years, or do you have another teaching destination in mind?
I'm in a bit of a toss-up since I just arrived here. I'm gonna give it at least a year or two, and then I think I want to maybe start working online. I'm seeing a lot of people traveling and working online, and so that would be something I'd really want to do. Is if I can teach online and go and see different places, that means I can work anywhere, I could travel anywhere and work at the same time. So I'm hoping that would be the ultimate goal now.
It's a great idea. It's something I've got a little bit of experience with myself working remotely from Costa Rica. And so, yeah, I mean, anyone who's able to bring in let's say, a wage from an Asian country, let's say maybe China or South Korea or something, or the Middle East maybe, and then apply that to a Latin American cost of living, that opens up
Yeah.
a lot of opportunities for spending your money locally and having a luxurious experience almost.
Yes, I noticed there's ways that your money can stretch. I think if you make a wage from another place, but I think in Latin America, depending on where you live, I think your wage can go a long way versus
Yeah,
in
for sure.
Canada.
Yes, absolutely. Any final advice or words of wisdom for anyone thinking of teaching in Mexico?
I think in my last podcast, I said the final advice was make sure that you give yourself time to adjust and don't be so hard on yourself. But I think in this time around is that, for some jobs that aren't even out there, I think you have to put yourself out there a little bit more to find specifically what you're looking for. So just like how I had the contacts with the emails, and then I think just email different people, or sometimes I've looked up different institutes and email them and to see if they have a position open. I think you have to put yourself a little bit more out there if you want specifically to look for what you're looking for, just to give yourself more options. Because now I realize not every job is advertised or posted, but there are still positions out there.
Great advice, as always. Thank you so much, Patricia, for joining us once again on the Teaching Abroad pod. And I hope we can have you back again someday.
Thank you for having me again.
Pleasure, as always. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks so much again, Patricia, for taking the time to chat with us today. It was so great having you. Before we go, I have a little Mexico-related job placement update for you. As always, our contacts with private language school programs in Mexico are hiring. For those who would like a short-term position, there are 4-month jobs available in historic Tehuacan in Puebla State. They are hiring currently for May starts and provide free shared housing to their teachers along with a stipend of 5,000 Mexican pesos per month. You can actually go back to our episode released April 20th of last year to hear all about some of the highlights of living there from our grad Dale. We also work with a language school in San Luis Potosi that has openings practically every month, and they pay about 90 pesos per hour for at least 15 teaching hours per week. And of course, if you want to apply to locations where we don't have direct contacts, we can still help with resources to apply on your own behalf, like in the case of Patricia, finding a university teaching job in Puerto Escondido. We can also help, as always, with the resume and cover letter, interview tips, contract review advice, and general support throughout the job search. So as always, thanks for tuning in to the Teaching Abroad pod. We'll be aiming to release new episodes at least once a month this year. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe and share it with your friends. Remember, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, etc. If you have any great ideas you'd like to hear us discuss in upcoming episodes, please leave them in the comments on YouTube or send them in the comments to Oxford Seminars on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or email us at teachingabroadpod@oxfordseminars.com. Thanks for listening.